Hello, today I'm going to go over the house mortgage project. This is the first of our 2 semester projects you'll be doing this semester. As you can see at the top of the project, it is due March 17th. Gives you a little over a month left to get this done. I'll go through and talk about the different steps of the project, what to expect, and just kind of give you a run through. You'll be completing this on your own. You are welcome to ask for help. You can contact me with questions. I definitely will help you. You're welcome to work together with your classmates, or even to get help from outside sources. At the end of the day, though, this should be your own work. You shouldn't be copying someone else's work. You shouldn't be letting someone else do this for you. You should be doing your own work. That's the plan. So the house mortgage project, we're going to start off. We're going to put some money away and get ready to buy a house. Well, we need to save up for the down payment to do that. So in the first section, you have $5,000 you're going to invest, and then you're going to let it sit for 5 years, and then you're going to take that and use that as part of your money that you'll use for your down payment. So with this $5,000, you have to invest in a couple different ways. We're going to buy some bonds, we're going to buy some stocks, and then whatever's left is going to go into a savings account. So that's what this is talking about here, A, B, and C. You have $5,000. First off, you'll take some of this in blank A is where you're going to be investing that in the bonds on this page. Next blank B on the next page will be where you're investing in stocks, and then C on the next page will be where you're taking whatever's left and putting that in a savings account. You have to use all three. You have to buy at least some bonds, at least some stocks, and you have to have at least money left over to put in the savings account. So in the first part, you get to pick some bonds. You need to pick at least one. So you have to pick at least one. You can pick multiples if you want. You can do several of the same bond, or you can do a couple different bonds. There are 3 different bonds. There are the locally municipal government bonds, which are AAA rating. Their face value is $500, but they are selling at $525 right now. So when you buy them, you'll be spending $525. They do have a 7.75% coupon rate, so that's the interest rate based on the original face value. You can choose a number of these. You have to choose whole number amounts. You can't buy half a bond or a third of a bond or anything like that. The bond lifespan, I will send out to you here in a day or two. This is whether or not the bonds defaulted. If they last 5 years, it means they actually lasted all 5 years and they paid out after 5 years, all the interest plus the maturity. If they only last like 1, 2, 3 years, that means that they paid out so many years of interest and then they defaulted. They stopped paying back their interest after that, and you don't get the original bond price. That can happen. Here, these ones, the national government bonds, have a little bit lower credit rating. They're not quite as safe as the first one. They do have a higher credit rate, coupon rate because of that. These were $750. They're actually only selling at $730 right now, so they're selling on sale a little bit. So you can only pay $730 for these, and then they will pay you back $750 when they mature, and you'll get 10% on that $750 for the interest payments. Last one's the corporate bonds. These are called junk bonds. It's kind of slang term for this. These are a little more risky. They're only a C rating. They are $1,000 originally, but because they're so risky, they're actually selling at $750 because there's a chance that they won't pay you back. These also pay a pretty high interest rate, 17%. So you get to choose which ones you want to buy, how many you want to buy. Figure out, if you buy, per se, a couple of these local municipal government bonds, say I bought 2 of those, I'd take that bond price times 2, and that'd be how much goes down here. If you have multiple bonds, you just have to find the total how much you spent, and overall you spent on bonds, that goes in that blank. Again, bond lifespan, I'll give that information to you. I'll put it out in detail here in the next couple days. You have to invest at least some money on the bonds, and you don't have to get all 3 types of bonds, but you have to get at least 1 bond. Next page, is stocks. You have to buy some stocks as well. So use some of that same $5,000. You don't have $5,000 for each thing. You have $5,000 total. So some of that $5,000 is going to go to bonds, some of it's going to go stocks, and the rest to savings. Here you get to buy one of the 3 different types of stocks: the financial corporation, pharmaceutical, and tech company. Here they have different volatility. Remember, the volatility is how likely they are the prices to go up and down. The lower the volatility, it's not going to go up and down as fast. It's going to be kind of slow moving. The higher volatility, it's going to go up and down a lot faster. With stocks, it is possible that you might get a negative growth and actually get worth less over time. So you might buy a financial corporation that's worth $50 now, but by the time 5 years are up, it might only be worth $40, and that could happen. Or it could be worth 60. It could go up. It's not going to move as much as the tech company, where this one where you expect more volatility, it's going to go up and down more. Again, these stocks you can only buy full shares, no partial shares of stocks. You can't buy halves or thirds or anything like that. No decimal amounts. So it should be a whole number amount of stocks. Find out, decide how many you're going to buy, and then figure out what the price is. If I buy 2 of these, it's going to be like 104.30. So I put that here. APR is going to be their annual interest rate. So how much does it grow in percent per year? So we'll use the APR that I will provide to you again in a couple days. So a couple days I'll tell you how the stocks and bonds did, but hopefully you're kind of figuring out this first part first before you get that. Then you'll put how much you spend on stocks. Again, you can buy more than one kind of stock. You could buy multiples of the same stock. You could buy multiple different stocks, or multiples of each. You have plenty of money to buy lots of stocks because you have $5,000, only $50 per stock. So you have to spend some on bonds too. In box B, you'll put how much you spent on all these stocks. Number 3, you deposit the remainder of the $5,000 into a 6.8% compounded monthly savings account. So this is just where you put the rest of your money. You'll notice the 6.8% is actually lower than any of the bond rates. If the stocks do well, they might beat that too. It depends on if they go up or down. Stocks can go down, so you never know. So this one is probably like the lowest paying investment you can do. So you probably won't have a lot of money left over for this, because if you have most of your money going into this savings account, you're not going to get as much to make your down payment. So this here, C, should just be the rest of the money. So you spent, for example, if you spent 200 in the first one, 200 in the second one, you'd still have 4,600 to put in here, which would probably be a bad idea. But if you did something like that, that's what would happen. You want to just whatever's left goes in here. Between A, B, and C, you should use up all $5,000. So now you decided how to invest your money. We're going to look at 5 years from now what this account will be worth. So here you just have to do your future value compound interest. We're plugging a chunk of money in here and just letting it sit for 5 years. On the next page, we got to figure out how much our bonds are worth. So since bonds, remember, pay simple interest, you're going to use simple interest calculations to figure out how much they're worth. And again, bonds will pay out their face value at their maturity date. So after 5 years, these will pay back their maturity value. And notice that they don't compound. So that's our bonds. So bonds are simple interest. When they're done, they pay back the base value. Use that information to figure out how much you have worth in those bonds. If they default partway through, remember, you don't get the maturity, but you don't get the face value ever. If they default, it means they stop paying back and never pay back the face value. Using the annual percentage rate on the stocks, we're going to figure out how much money you have from stocks. Stocks do compound continuously, so they're going to grow. The growth grows on top of itself in a continuous manner. So you want to compound continuously to find the value of each of these stocks. If you have multiple stocks or multiple bonds, make sure you total up all the stocks or total up all the bonds on these questions, because you should have a number here that's like the total value of all your bonds or all your stocks. Number 6, to make sure we have more money and to kind of save in a more realistic way, we are going to have this systematic savings account where we're going to put money in there each month for all 5 years. So we have enough money, we can put $475 aside each month for these 5 years. An account that's actually running 8.45% APR over the 5 years. And that will let us get a little bit more, even if our stocks and bonds do poorly, at least we'll have some money to make towards that down payment. So we'll do that savings. Number 7, we're going to add up all the amounts from 3, 4, 5, and 6. Those are all the things we had saved up. First savings account, bonds, stocks, and then the second savings account where we're depositing regularly. And so now this is all the money we have to make our down payment and closing costs. So now we can start looking for a house. So on number 8, you're actually going to go online and you're going to look for a house. You need to purchase a house. You don't have to really buy a house. And it doesn't have to be a house that you really want to get. It could be a dream home. It could just be something funny. It could be, a house in your neighborhood. It could be whatever. Just find a house. I need you to find at least a listing that has the house and the price. Usually it gives like the number of bedrooms and bathrooms. Attach a single page. I don't need like the whole 10-page realtor.com listing or whatever you find. I just want the first page, which has the house and the price and stuff. That's enough. And then attach that with your project when you submit it. Make sure you have the list price here, so that just gives you that when going through and grading. It makes it a little easier for me if you write that down so I know what the price is on that house. So that's the house cost, the price of the house. A lot of times, those will give you the like what the mortgage payment is going to be and stuff like that. Please don't use that amount for anything. That's their estimate. It's not a very accurate value or anything. So we just want, all we want from this is the list price. Now that you know how your house's cost, you can try and figure out your down payment. We're going to try and avoid that private mortgage insurance. This is something that happens if you don't put at least 20% down when you buy a house. The mortgage company, the lender, will actually take out insurance against you not paying back your loan, and you pay for that. That's a fee which you'll see in your, if you do this, it's called PMI or private mortgage insurance. And basically, the bank charges you a little fee so that they can cover insurance that against you defaulting. If you pay at least 20% down, they can't do that. They can't use private mortgage insurance. It's only for people making less than 20% down. That's what would happen. So we're going to avoid that. So we're going to make the 20% down payment. So using your house price for number 8, just find out what 20% of that is. That's your down payment. Then, of course, to find your principal, this is how much you're actually going to borrow. We just subtract that down payment from our house cost, and that will be our principal. The principal is pretty important. We'll use it for a lot of the calculation from here on out. We're trying to make our, figure out loan payments and stuff. The principal is how much we're actually borrowing. It's pretty important. And we want to pay we have to pay some closing costs when you buy a house and you get a mortgage. That's pretty typical. We have closing costs. We have a flat fee of $2,500, and we've decided to pay 4 points. That helps us keep our mortgage rate, our interest rate down. Remember that the points are a percentage of the principal. Please don't use the house cost. That's not what they're for. The 4 points are a percentage of the principal. So we'll find the 4 points from the principal, add in the $2,500, and that'll be your total closing cost. Now that we know our down payment and our closing costs, we need to figure out how much we, see our situation because we had our savings and stuff. So we're going to add up the down payment and the closing cost totals, put that together. We're going to subtract that from what we had from savings back on question 7. So now that will give us how much we have left over, or if we're short, how much we're short. So if you get a positive amount, that means you paid everything, you had a little bit left over. If you get a negative amount, it means that you didn't have quite enough. Okay, so from here on out, whether you got positive or negative is determine what you're going to do next. You're going to 13A if your amount, or you're going to skip 13A if you had a positive and just do 13B. But if your amount was negative, you'll do 13A and skip 13B. So let's see what happens on 13. So on 13A, again, this is if you got a negative. So this means basically that you didn't have enough money to cover your closing costs. There are other options for paying closing costs or down payments. Sometimes these are available. For example, there's a program called NeighborWorks. You borrow money to pay the amount from question 12. So you're paying off the rest of your closing costs and down payments. You borrow the difference from NeighborWorks to pay off the rest of the closing costs. So you're going to basically do a loan where your principal is your amount from number 12 as a positive number, not negative. You don't need a negative principal. We're just covering that. Here, this loan will be a 3.5% interest rate. You'll make monthly payments over 6 years. So we'll use that and you'll figure out what your monthly payment will be to pay off the rest of this so that you can get that mortgage. Because if you don't have enough for closing cost down payments, you might have to borrow some extra to get that. Now, if you actually had enough money so that you covered all your closing costs and down payments, so you're actually doing good with that part, then you would have a positive amount and you'd move on to part B. You'd skip that first part because you didn't need to borrow any more money. You're feeling pretty lucky because you saved up enough for your closing costs and down payment, so you decide to purchase some new furniture for your home. The money you have left, so your overage you had from number 12, was enough to cover about half the cost, but you need to finance the rest. Well, if you had, for say, like $1,000 left over, and that covers half the cost, well, then that means you still need to borrow $1,000 because that's what the other half would be. It matches what you have. So whatever your amount from 12, that's what you'd use here if you have a positive amount from 12. And then you'd have this store where they loan you money at 4.6% APR with a 5-year term. You're going to try and figure out your monthly payments. So you're going to do your monthly payments. Your principal will give you the answer from 12. So you should do one of the two. You shouldn't do both. You don't need to do 13A and B, but you should do either A or B. Okay. Now that you've made sure your closing costs and down payment are covered, you got the mortgage, or we know you can borrow the money. Now we need to find our mortgage rate. So here I want you to go online and find what the daily, the fixed rate mortgages. No adjustable rate mortgages, please. Just do fixed rate mortgages. The fixed rate mortgages are a lot safer. more reliable. You know, the payment doesn't change all the time like it can with a fixed rate mortgage, adjustable rate mortgage. So we're going to do a fixed rate mortgage or a firm. You need to find the rate. Now, if you go and just go to any random bank website and try and like find out what the mortgage rates are, they probably will ask for a lot of information. Please don't give them too much information, especially don't give out like your phone number or email or anything, because they will hound you trying to get you to take a mortgage. You know, if you do not want them to come after you because they are kind of relentless. So a good website to go to just to find what the daily mortgage rates are is usbank.com right here that I have listed. They do have basically what's the fixed rate mortgage for today. So I want you to look up the fixed rate mortgage. You look it up online, print off that one single page of, you know, you might need to screenshot or whatever, but you know, print that off. It should have, you know, where you found this loan, the APR, and the length. A lot of times they'll give you APR and the interest rate. So if they give you like rate and APR, make sure you use the APR. It's the more accurate, more realistic number. You know, most a little bit higher usually. It counts for all the a lot of fees and stuff getting worked into the loan. So use the APR, the term or the length of the loan, and then give that information here. So write down what the APR, what is your term, and then make sure you attach that page showing that you looked it up and that's what you got. If there's like multiple rates, if you look it up somewhere and there's multiple rates, just circle the one you're actually using so that it's clear. Yeah, include that. So now you have your interest rate and your term. Now we can start thinking about paying back this loan. So we want to figure out what the monthly payment is. We're going to use that loan payment formula. Remember, your principal here will be your principal we calculated after we took out the down payment. Your interest rate and term we just got on the previous page. This should be a monthly payment. You know, it should be paid monthly, so it should be 12. So calculate your monthly payment for this loan, and that's the big part there. Now, we chose a fixed rate mortgage because we know those are safer, dependable, the rate doesn't ever change. But just to simulate what would happen if you got an adjustable rate mortgage, let's look at what if your same loan had a 2% increase in the APR. So we're going to go back and do the same calculation. We're just going to add 2% to the interest rate. So if you got like a 7% interest rate, just bump it up to 9%. And do this calculation again just with 9% instead. Or if you had an 8%, bump up to 10%. Okay, just add 2% to the interest rate. Take this calculation, do it again with a 2% higher interest rate, and see how that changes your monthly payment. And think about it. That's what could happen if you got an adjustable rate mortgage. You could start out with one interest rate, and then as time goes by, that interest rate can increase. There is a possibility that 2% interest increase could happen in just 1 year. So you could go from paying that lower payment to this higher payment in just over 1 year. And that's a big difference you'll notice when we do this. When you're paying for a house, you don't just pay for the mortgage, you actually pay for other things as well. So, and usually you do actually pay these to your lender because they want to make sure these things get paid. So they'll pay for things like taxes and insurance. So you'll send a check to your, you know, the mortgage person that has your mortgage, but you'll send a check for the mortgage payment plus taxes, insurance, and maybe other fees. So we're going to look at what your real price would be. So using the number from 15, so the original payment, not the adjustable rate simulation, but the original fixed rate mortgage. We're going to take that and we're going to add in homeowners insurance, $135 a month. You know, you're going to pay $105 for taxes per month. So you're going to add that in, and $60 per month for other fees like maybe HOA fees if you're in a homeowners association. All those things are things you might have to pay monthly to your mortgage broker. So we're going to add those all to 15 and look at your real total. This is kind of something to think about when you do go buy a house. If you'll have the mortgage payment, but you'll also have to pay for taxes, insurance, whatever other fees on top of that, besides like all the home repairs and maintenance and stuff that you have to pay for when you own a home. So it's important to realize that just your mortgage is not your whole payment. You know, there's other things happen as well. You know, tax and insurance can be a big part of that. It's depending on how much you have to pay for those. Okay, so we got our loan. Last part of this project is figuring out, you know, looking at paying it back. So we're going to go back to that amount from question 15. Don't worry about the added costs we looked at, 16 or 17. We're just worried about the mortgage right now. And we're kind of ignoring the insurance and taxes. We're safe. We just want to pay that mortgage. We're going to look at how much we're going to pay over the next period of time, however long your loan is. You know, if you have a 30-year loan, over the next 30 years, how much you're going to pay. So we just multiply, you know, our monthly payment from 15 times those 12 months in a year, because you have to pay it every month, times the term, which, you know, for example, was like 30 years, and multiply times 30. So that will give you the total you're paying for this loan. You know, it pays all the principal, all the interest, all of it. So you can find that by multiplying. Now we want to know how much is from interest. Well, just subtract the principal and that gives you the interest, right? That's the big idea, is you can always take the total minus principal and get interest. So you'll know how much is interest. It's sometimes possible that your interest might be a bigger payment than your principal. You know, if you have a high enough interest rate on a house, especially 30-year houses loans, you might pay more in interest than you do on pay for the house. Suppose you decide you want to repay the loan 5 years sooner. So instead of paying off in 30 years, you want to pay it in 25 years. Instead of paying in 15 years, you want to pay it in 10 years. You're going to pay it 5 years faster, no matter what your original term is. We're going to go back and we're going to recalculate what your payment would be. So instead of doing the payment for 15, we're going to basically take that same principal, you know, same interest rate, but we're just going to make it be for that to happen. How much would you have to pay each month to get that to happen? Since you pay it off 5 years faster, you're paying a lot less interest, so you should have some good interest savings. So in 21, we're going to figure out how much will we pay. So we'll take this new payment amount, multiply it times the 12 months in the year, and then times the term. You know, since we're doing it 5 years faster, instead of multiplying by 30, we multiply by 25 now. You know, that should be a smaller number to multiply by, and you should have a smaller value here. And you should say, oh, okay, I saved some money because I'm not paying all those interest payments. Now we'll take this total we have here compared to the total we got in 18, and we can find out how much we saved. You know, subtract 21 from 18 and be like, oh, okay, because I paid it off 5 years faster, I saved so much money in interest. The savings should be pretty good. You know, if you pay it off faster, you avoid a lot of interest payments. You can save thousands and thousands in interest payments just by paying a little bit faster. Okay. Now, 23, another way to do this is instead of trying to pay it off a specific amount of time faster, maybe just pay a little bit extra each month. So we're going to pay an extra 25%. So, you know, if you had like a $1,000 payment, you'd pay an extra $250 because that's a fourth of 1,000, 25% of 1,000. So you'd pay $1,250 each month instead of the regular 1,000. So you pay 25% extra. So look at your payment from 15, the original payment we were making. They add 25% more to that, and that's your new payment. Now, because you're paying extra, you will pay it off early. So you need to figure out how long it's going to take you to pay this off. If you're going to pay it off extra, 25% extra each month. So we're going to take this extra payment, this new payment we got in number 23, and the original principal, how much we borrowed in the house, you know, the interest rate, and we're going to throw them all in this formula for the time frame, how many years it will take us to pay off in this one. Make sure you round this to one decimal place. You know, don't tell me it's like 3.45 years. Just say 3.5 years. This one, usually, if you have a 30-year loan, you'll probably pay it off in about 20 years. If you have a 15-year loan, it's about 10 years. Can't say exactly what it is because it depends on things like your principal and your interest rate. To do this formula, you'll notice there's two logs. This log is a button on your calculator, whether you have like a TA4 or a TA30. There should be a button right here that says LOG. That's your log button. So you just type that, and then you can type all your stuff inside of there. So you just have two of them. So you type log, type all this fraction stuff, close off the parentheses, divided, type log, and then do that again. So that's how we type that in. This is just part of solving one of those equations for time. End up using these log things. Log's just a function, kind of like the square root function. It does something different, but it's the same idea. Something where you can plug numbers in and get an answer out. Gives you some decimal. So typing all this in should give you a decimal. If you get stuck on this one, this is a great time to reach out and just say, hey, Charles, I'm trying to type in that weird equation you have. I can't get it. You can always like take a photo of your work and show me what you have, and I can kind of point out like, oh, this is where you're missing something or whatever. But yeah, this will give you the time frame. So once you have the time, now you know your payment and your time, you can go back and figure out how much you're going to pay this version. So using that bigger payment, that 25% extra payment, now that you're doing that payment, you can say, okay, well, I have that payment for this many years, and again, 12 months per year. You multiply all that out, you'll get the total you paid. And then lastly, we want to figure out how much we're saving versus the original, payment plan. So if we go back to, our total we had on 18, we're using, original payment, and figure out how much we paid. We'll just, subtract this from that, subtract this new total from that, and see that by paying 25% extra, you'll be able to see how much, more you're saving per month. So that is it. That's the whole project. So you have three parts. You gotta, make some savings. You gotta get a mortgage, and then you gotta pay it off. And it's a really good idea to look at like paying a little bit extra. It's amazing how much even like $50, $100 extra a month on a mortgage that's running in the thousands can save you tons of money and interest. So it's a really good example to kind of show that in real life is very useful. You can really save yourself a lot of money in the long run by paying just a little bit extra or getting a better mortgage rate, kind of things like that. Hopefully this helps you get an idea of what to do on the project. If you have any questions about it, like I said, reach out. You can shoot me emails. You can stop by office hours if you're in Rapid. I'm happy to help with this. This isn't like a test where you just have to do it all on your own. It's a project idea is that you can get help, you can work with other people. I do ask, one of the big things is you should show your work on here, mostly because that way if you have an answer that's wrong, but you showed your work, I can still give you some credit for that. Because if I have an answer that's wrong and there's no work, I can't give any credit because I have no idea why the answer was wrong. As far as I know, you just wrote a number down randomly. You don't get points for that. So show your work. If you use a formula, write down the formula. If you plug in numbers for that, write those down. The more work you show, even if you have a wrong answer, the more points they can give you on that. So make sure you do that. Also, be careful about rounding. Just round all your money amounts to the nearest penny. So make sure you do that, like I specified. But there you go. That's the project, and hopefully it goes well. And yeah, if you have any questions, just reach out.